So, hi everyone. It is great to be here today with our new Vice President for Student Affairs, Beth Lesen. And Beth, welcome to the beach. And my goodness, what a time it has been for you. How has it been transitioning to the beach with all the COVID-19 changes?
It's been a bit of a whirlwind. I'm not going to lie. So we had, the best laid plans with mice and men. The original plan was that I would start on July 1st, and we thought I'd start during the summer and it would be quiet and I'd have an opportunity to get to know people before things heated up and in the fall. And of course, that's not at all how this has gone. And instead, I've started early, remotely, from 400 miles away during a global pandemic and nationwide protests to fight racialized police brutality. So it's challenging, but I'm excited and I'm honored to join the campus.
Fantastic. Well, we're so happy that you're here. And I mean, as Vice President of Student Affairs, certainly from the Provost's point of view, you're one of the people I work most closely with. You've got your finger on the pulse of everything that our students do, and we know that students are the heart of the university. So it's great to have you as a partner. Coming from Sacramento State, one of our sister campuses, as you do, what are some strategies that you hope to bring with you to the beach?
It's a great question, and I don't know for sure yet, because I need to get to know this culture, and I need to I need to immerse myself in Long Beach and figure out, get to know the lay of the land and see what needs exist. Long Beach is such a phenomenal institution with such a track record of success that I don't want to be presumptuous and imagine that there are needs that may not actually be needs. But some of the things that I can say I enjoyed while in my tenure at Sacramento State, I had a very strong partnership with my academic colleagues. Academic affairs and I worked hand in hand. I worked with my academic colleagues every single day, without exaggeration. I can say every single day I worked hand in hand with my academic colleagues. So I know that Long Beach also boasts a strong collaboration between student affairs and academic affairs, but you and I have already talked about our mutual interest in strengthening that partnership and making sure that we're really in lockstep with each other. So I'm blessed that I came from a campus that had that kind of relationship, and I had phenomenal partners in academic affairs, and I'm looking forward to recreating that now that I'm at the beach.
Perfect. Well, I mean, we are looking forward to it as much as you are, so that's really great to hear. Of course, given the times we're in, that's not only a global pandemic, but we also have roiling protests about the killing of George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement. I'm sure you have great ideas about what ways perhaps that higher education or we at the beach what can we do better based on that those activities?
Yeah, I feel like there's so much that we can be doing better. It's a big question, right? So first of all, I've been obviously spending a lot of time thinking about this, and not just recently, but especially recently. We're in the academy, we're in a structure that was, frankly, our history, we were built for straight white Christian men. Like our higher education system was not built for the students we serve today. And I think we need to start by really facing that, really grappling with our own history, because without grappling with our history, we're not going to be able to move forward constructively. And that's a big piece. So if we approach this, we have to meet this moment, right? We're in a historical moment, and it behooves us to meet this moment. And if we think we're going to meet it by making, cosmetic tweaks, we're really going to miss the mark. And we can't be, we really need to set our sights higher. So the words that keep coming into my head, the words that I remind myself of over and over are humble and brave, humble and brave, humble and brave. You know, I feel like this moment really requires a very painful and concerted humbling, especially in higher education, where, you know, we're a profession of experts, and we stand in rooms and teach. We, you know, in and out of rooms, we're seen for our expertise and as guides and mentors. And really, this moment calls for us to humble ourselves and step out of the role of experts and into the role of learners, and really, and learning that is hard, and learning that can be painful and certainly uncomfortable. So the humility that calls on is really enormous. And so we have to rise to the challenge to humble ourselves appropriately, to really embrace our role as learners, as uncomfortable learners, and then be brave. You know, in the midst of all of that uncomfortable learning, we can't just sit around and pontificate. We can't only be engaged in learning. We need to be engaged in actionable work toward to further an anti-racist agenda, to really to show up for hard conversations, to, you know, breathe through the really intense emotions that kicks up, and commit to being action-oriented in a sustained way that isn't always comfortable for the academy, right? We like to take our time and think things through, and this is not the time to pontificate. We really need to be very action-oriented and be a beacon of anti-racist effort in our community.
I think you're so right. And I mean, as serious and perhaps downhearted as we all are about the enormous amount of effort and courage we need to put forward to going some way to taking action to transform the situation, I don't think there's really any other alternative. And so for those of you who are listening out there or watching, we want you to know that the entire leadership team of the university is both humbled and hopefully brave enough to make the transition.
Yeah, I think that I think that if we're active, if we're action oriented, I think more than any words we can say, I think folks are going to be rightfully watching to see how we back those words up with our actions. And I'm excited to get into that work. I'm a little scared because it's hard work. I'm a little nervous about it, but I'm excited to do it because it's long overdue. And I'm excited to have partners like you in that process who are really deeply committed to doing that work.
Well, likewise. I mean, I guess it's a natural question, but, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but sort of what visions and plans and strategies do you have for student affairs? I mean, normally it's a difficult enough portfolio in so-called normal times, but these are not normal times. So how has that changed, or how will we work together to make this the best student affairs division in the CSU?
The best one, for sure. I'm on it. Gosh, you ask good questions, and they're big questions.
Sorry.
That's okay. No, they're
no little
great
questions.
No, they're big questions. There's shortened number of words, but big in content. So I think one of the things that's going to become really important is how we walk and chew gum at the same time, because we got hit with everything at once, right? So, you know, we have to do the work that we've always done in welcoming our new students and supporting our students and their academic and personal success. All of that needs to continue, and we have a pandemic, and we have enhanced needs around health and safety, and I believe that we've always had a mandate to work toward a more equitable society, but now we've got an even more urgent mandate around that work. So, how do we do that? How do we, and we'll be working on that together, right? So, these are big thoughts, but how does that get actualized? We need to think about how to repopulate the campus, and we'll be doing that together as a team. But within student affairs, we need to worry about things like the residence halls and who's going to live on campus and how we can ensure their safety and health while we do that. We need, in counseling and psychological services, we need to be thinking about how we're supporting our students. The pandemic and the safer at home orders has been an incredibly intense stressor for everybody. And mental health issues were already high before all of this happened. So how do we double down in our support of our students who are dealing with unprecedented distress and stressors and challenges and in basic needs? We have students, an unprecedented number of students will be unemployed, and after the eviction moratorium is eventually lifted, we're going to have students who will be facing some pretty dire circumstances. And how do we work with university development to make sure that we have the resources to support them so that they are safe and able to continue,
Indeed.
continue achieving. So,
yeah, indeed, it's a really large issue for society as a whole. It's not only students who may be facing these, but also some of our staff and some even of our faculty. And we as a community need to pull together. And although we may not necessarily be able to solve these issues, at least we can try to address them boldly and work with our on-campus and off-campus colleagues to reach hopefully satisfying solutions.
Yeah, I don't think we have a choice. The problems are too big to address them alone. We have to do it together because the magnitude of the circumstances relies on our entire community pulling together if we have any hope of addressing them. And then on top of that, our anti-racist agenda and auditing our policies and processes and interrogating the words we use in reference to people of global majority, and how do we show up for our Black and African American community members when they're in distress. And later this month, at some point this month, we'll get the Supreme Court decision on DACA, and what will that do to our Latinx community, and how do we support our undocumented and students from mixed status families through whatever that decision looks like. So it's really a staggering number of challenges to be facing at once, but and it may sound Pollyanna-esque, but I feel optimistic provided we pull together and really face it together as a community.
I think you're absolutely right. And in spite of the devastation in ways from so many avenues, I think sometimes crises like these concentrate the minds of people, and maybe it's a watershed moment when the United States can move beyond some of its current systemic issues and make progress forward. But I agree, obviously, that working together is one way we're going to have to do that. Sort of from the large to the small, if I ask you sort of one or two things that faculty, students, and staff might be aware of as to how we can better support our students, what comes to your mind?
One of the things that I've been saying to faculty for my entire career is, we're here to support you. We're all here to support our students, and the best way for us, and one of the ways in which we have to support our students is by supporting our faculty, because every single student will interact with some faculty members. I may or may not see a student in my office in the time that they're at Long Beach, but that student will most certainly have contact with faculty. So we rely on faculty to be our eyes and ears. We rely on faculty to be in communication when there are needs that weren't, make us aware of needs that we can help meet. I want faculty to be able to go into classrooms and be the best professors that they can be. And so we're here to provide as much support as possible to handle anything else that comes up, to help handle anything that comes up. So whether it's a need that is presented or a struggle that's encountered, I really hope that faculty will get used to reaching out to either our division office or our dean of students, and even just to consult, even just to say, I've encountered this situation and I'm not sure what to do with it, or I could really use some backup, because we're here for you, and that's a big part of our mission in student affairs. So if there's anything I would love for faculty to do is call us often, call on us to support you and to help you. Call for anything, even if you don't know how to articulate what you need, we'll figure that out together. Call early and often. Call early and often.
All right, well, that is a fantastic invitation, which I'm sure faculty and others watching will take up. I so agree with you that this, and I've spoken about it many times before, that one of the things we do best in academia is erect silos between us. And some people laugh when I say we mustn't call them silos, we should call them cylinders of excellence. But, but regardless of what we call them, it's important to break them down, because we're not competing divisions. We're all one university, one beach, as the president expresses it, and we're all working for the success of our students and everyone in our community, internal and external to the university. So we can only do that together, whether it's smaller issues or the larger issues that confront our society. So thank you for the offer. And I'm sure you'll get lots of calls.
Good.
Yeah. So putting on your imagination cap, and given the whole new world that the fall is going to look mostly remote and very different from things we may have experienced before, how do you perceive the fall, and what do you think it's going to look like?
Yeah, so how do I perceive the fall? So, well, we've been in the virtual environment for a little while now, and so we know what that looks like. And I think that having the summer to refine some of what we're doing is a gift that we weren't afforded in the spring. So many of us are spending our time over the summer evaluating what worked and what didn't work for students over the spring, and making adjustments and enhancements. Some of the things that we'll need to do for this fall, you and I have actually had this conversation. We're going to have an entire incoming class of new students who are looking forward to starting their college career at the beach, and they're doing it in a virtual environment. And my heart breaks for all of our students, but my heart especially breaks for the first semester students for whom this is their intro to college life, right? And so, we need to make sure that, I think about it almost in terms of Maslow's hierarchy. We need to make sure that they have what they need tangibly to get started in a strong way. Make sure that they have the technology, and we'll be doing the laptop loans out of Student Affairs in partnership with ITS. Make sure they have the tech available, make sure that they have access to their course materials, even despite the virtual environment. So we need to do that, the basic stuff, but then we also need to shepherd them into the university and acclimate them to a university, excuse me, in ways that we've not done yet, that we've not done. So SOAR is right now in process. They've converted their entire orientation to a virtual format, and they're working diligently to orient our new students in this environment. And then you and I talked about launching a brand new mentoring program for all of our incoming students, a campus-wide mentoring program that that I think we have to do, especially because of the digital divide and how many students will not, may or may not take to the virtual environment naturally or easily. It's incumbent on us to have eyes on every single incoming student and make sure that we facilitate their transition in a much more hands-on way than maybe we've been used to doing in the past. So I think we're all going to be involved in this effort.
I agree, and I think that idea of mentoring by members of our community has been very well received so far. The Senate executive, the Senate was quite excited by that idea. We don't have concrete plans yet, but I think the administration was very keen to be involved. I know staff are willing to and happy to be engaged, and of course we always rely on the the help and advice of our staff. But I think together we can do that, and even though it seems perhaps impossible to even conceive of, I think we'll be able to develop ways to welcome this new crop of soon-to-be Beach alumni into our virtual environment. And we hope that in due course, epidemiologists and virologists are working hard to make a vaccine or to develop treatments, and as soon as those happen, we hope to go back to our usual MO. We shall see, but we certainly hope for that. I know it's sort of a difficult question, and God knows I don't know what I would say if someone asked me this, but
That's exciting.
What are some ways that the campus community can improve or do things better to help our students, to prepare them, to support them and make them feel welcome?
So I'm going to go for low-hanging fruit here because I'm on day 9. So
right.
So
you're an old hand already, Beth.
Exactly. I know this place backward and forward. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about something that it's a pretty easy guess because most campuses struggle, especially at an institution of 37,000 students. We're a large institution. I think it's a pretty safe bet that we have a hard time. You talked a little bit about cylinders of excellence earlier, or better silos. I'm going to guess that we could really stand to improve our communication across campus, because it becomes really hard for folks to know what's going on from one side of the campus to another and across divisions, and even within divisions, from one academic college to another academic college, or from one unit in student affairs to another unit in student affairs, much less across divisions. So one of the things that I'm passionate about is that, when we show up to fix something, we need access to our full tool belt. We need access to all of the tools. And when we don't have transparent and effective communication across campus, we just don't have all of our tools available to us. We don't even know what all of our tools are. So often the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. And that impairs our ability to fully support students, because we don't even necessarily always have access to all of the resources that are available on their behalf, much less them having the access or awareness of those resources. So one of the things that I'm interested in doing is really looking at the way, since I'm a fresh set of eyes, right? I'm really interested in looking at our various channels of communication across the campus. How do we communicate with each other? How do we inform each other of what we have available and what we're doing? And kind of do a little bit of a gap analysis and start to address the gaps in communication across campus. And really this isn't a sexy conversation, right? Communication is not an exciting conversation for a lot of people, but when we're limited in our perspective of the institution and all it has to offer, then we're limited in how we can really support our students. So putting transparent, regular communication in place in different areas, I think will empower us in new ways to do a fuller job of helping every student that we encounter. And that's a low-hanging fruit, because I think that's probably true of most institutions. So I'm kind of giving you an underhanded pitch.
Well, I think you are absolutely spot on, and in every conversation I've ever had with you, you always put your finger on the nub of issues right away. There's no doubt that communication is an issue on our campus. I won't say it's always intentionally bad. I think
for sure not. Yeah.
Communicating, as you say, in an environment of 40,000 people is a difficult task. But you know, they say, what do they say about real estate? It's all about location, location, location. And yes. I think that when it comes to higher education, maybe it's communication, communication, communication. So we'd love to work with you on that, because no doubt I can improve. No doubt we can all learn and improve from each other, but a willingness to learn and openness to new ideas is always welcome. So thank you for that.
That's exciting. Yeah, you know, so much of what we do depends almost entirely on relationships, right? And the strength of our relationships depend on the quality of our communication. So as we improve our communication, our relationships will, you know, miscommunications will happen less frequently. We'll understand each other's perspectives better. We'll form stronger relationships and really be a more functional team when it comes to serving the students that we serve all the time. So I actually geek out on communication stuff.
Fabulous. Great. Well, I look forward to tutorials on it, Beth, so you'll regret that. In the meantime, it's been an absolute delight speaking to you, and I'm sure everyone listening or watching will be as thrilled as I am to welcome you to the beach, and hope your next 9 days and your next 90 days and your next 900 days are as fun and exciting and perhaps not quite as challenging as the first 9. But all in all, welcome, Beth, and it's great to have you here, and we look forward to great cooperation and a terrific partnership.
Thank you so much for inviting me to have this conversation.
Thank you.
Thank
you for taking the time in
very
your
honored.
First 2 weeks. Thank you.
This has been fun. Thanks.
Great. Okay.